get those holes drilled, see what we got. Getting over a cold too, so hopefully that doesn't bother you and me sniffling a little bit. Okay, I'm going to just go in a little bit, out, in, out, in, out. You don't want to drive it in there in one go. You could snap the drill bit off, or it accumulates a lot of wood on there and you got to keep pulling it out to clean your bit. So I'm going to kind of put it in at a slight angle, kind of go in at just a little bit of an angle, not too much, but not straight either, because you may hit the very edge of your stud, and then when you're putting the screws in, it could go out of the edge of the stud and what have you. I'm going to go ahead and put all three in. Well, I can feel that stud is kind of hard. So I hope I can ram these screws in, which I think I'll be able to. We'll see. Okay, let's see if I can drive these all the way in with this drill. You know, battery operated drills, believe it or not, seem to be stronger than the power ones, because these might not be able to torque it all the way down. We're going to try it and see. I've got my other drill here just in case I need it. Make sure you put them in the right holes, because see, we don't want to put them in any of these other 4 holes. And if you're thinking, hey, Joe, why not just take one of the screws out and ram a screw into here and use that and be done with it? Well, you can't suck this jam in far enough that way, depending how far you want to go. We want to try to shove it in as far as we can, so that's why we're doing it on the back side. Then you won't see these screws. Make sense? I don't even care what color these are or anything like that. I want to make sure there's a flat head so they go flush to the wood. I don't want the round head ones. Wow, that went in good. I'm just doing a little trigger at a little bit at a time. Drive these in as far as I can to help suck that over. Now if there's a shim on here, I might not be able to suck that over a whole lot, but any little bit is better than nothing, right? I've got another step to do after this if this doesn't work all the way. Okay. There. Okay, now I can lift that back up and put those screws in. If you're doing it by yourself, you just have to think about different things, because I have to raise that door up, then I got to hold it in place, put a shim underneath the door, all that kind of stuff. So see, I'm gonna close this door just a little bit, not a whole lot, but enough. So I have to get it over to about there so that I can now lift that up and put something underneath there. And see, I was going to put my cat's paw. But my cat's paw is too thick, so now I'm going to have to improvise. See what else I can do over here. Let's see here. If I had a second person here. Oh, okay. Let's try that. I got lifted up a little bit. Now my hinge is in the right place. But see, the door's too far. I can't screw it in. I gotta slide it back over a little bit. Over this way. So I can reach. I gotta have enough room. You see, I gotta have enough room to reach in there and put those screws back in by hand without hitting the edge of the screwdriver on the edge of the door. Okay? tight exactly where it was before. I'm going to use the same screws. These screws aren't very long. These are the existing ones that came out of here. And if they're already spinning or loose, or you're afraid that you're going to tighten this up, if they're not holding, then that's going to cause your door to sag too. So, you know, if you wanted, you get longer screws, drive them in further, or even 2-inch long screws, let's say, so that it goes through the door jamb, which is 3/4 of an inch. Usually you have a 1/4 inch to a 3/8 gap between that and the 2x4 where the shims are to attach your door jamb, so you can plumb it up and make it level and all that good stuff. And then you could drive the rest of the screw length right into the 2x4. That would be the best way in a perfect world, okay? But these seemed to be snug from before, and if I can get these in there tight, see, that feels tight. I like to put these in. I mean, you could put it in with the drill again, but I don't want to strip the head a little bit, or you know, if these are barely grabbing, let's say, you put them in with the battery operated drill or something like that, you could spin them, and then they're not holding, are they? See, now I couldn't have had the door opened all the way at a 90-degree angle, because if you put it at a slight angle, it kind of gives you more room to kind of shim it up here, you know? I mean, I guess I could have ran it straight and put a shim in there, but I like to do it this way. It seems to work out all right. Okay. Okay. Now, we're going to see how well the door is sitting at this place when we close the door. Another option, you could get it a little bit further by doing the other hinge, you know, the middle hinge. We could do the same thing. We could do the same thing to the middle hinge. Right down there now. We could pull that out, and we could pre-drill that again, couldn't we? And put 3 more screws in there, which I may end up doing. And at the bottom, we don't have to do anything because we know the door was sagging at the top hinge. And so that's why we're trying to push that jamb over, okay? Okay, let's check this out. Got just that one hinge re-secured. Now that gap is about the same. Now look at the top. I still have a big gap there. See there? I mean, I couldn't suck it over very far, could I? Now see, there's a slight gap there still left. I didn't really push this over much by doing that. Sometimes you can push it over further than that, depending how tight they've got the shims in here, how tight everything is. Lots of times there's a little bit of a snugness that's just slightly loose where you can snug that in and it pushes over just enough, and you'd be amazed at what you can do to get the doors resituated. But because, you know, in an existing house or something on a slab, usually you can do stuff like this. But you saw this was a shed, so the walls have probably sagged, the floors probably sagged a little bit, and there's only going to be so much we can do. But what I'm going to try next is I'm going to do the same thing to this hinge. And at the bottom, I don't think I'm going to do anything to that because I really don't have to. And the door right here is still hitting that threshold. You know, that rubber, I was hoping to raise it just enough to squeeze by there. So that's why I want us to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to do the same thing with this hinge. And then I've got a trick. I want to show you what I can do with this. Because see, we've got just a little bit of a gap. I can make that just a hair tighter. Did you know that? By doing something to this hinge. Stick around, I'll show you that in a minute. Hey, here's a little tip I wanted to share with you. Doesn't matter what type of Phillips head you use. I mean, look at this one. I use that to take these screws out of the door hinges. It fits fine, right? Well, here's the screws that I rammed in there. That fits too, huh? Well, this one here is just a hair sloppy, just a little bit. So if you get the next size up of your Phillips, it'll fit in there nice and snug, and you can ram it in there further. there's a tip for you, because you don't want to strip those out. You want to get them in there all the way. Now see, there's not much difference between the two, but you can see, you should be able to see that this one is just a hair bigger than this one. Now you know. The reason why I'm showing you that is because you may not have known that, because I used to put in timely frames or commercial metal door jambs with the screws that you got to screw in there. Well, if you use a wrong tip, you try to screw those in, it strips the head out, makes them look nasty, and sometimes you can't get them all tight in there. So if you use the proper head of the Phillips, it fits snug, and you can just drive those in and make them look nice and pretty, not have to worry that they're going to strip the heads or anything like that. Try that next time. Boy, I got my work cut out for me on this particular door. Okay, I got that hinge down, I got this hinge done here, and the door is still hanging up at the bottom, which I thought it would, but I don't want to, here's the thing, I don't want to mess with this door at all until I get done over with this hinge side. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do something that you may have never known on this hinge to make this tighter. And usually your gap, you don't want your gap much smaller than that. You see that nice gap there? But because there is a slight gap, I know that this door can go over to the existing door jamb just a little bit more, don't I? Even if it's not, not rubbing, but just pushed up tight. I know that, just that little bit. Hey, does size matter? Yes, of course it matters, and I'll show you why next. Class is now open. There's the top hinge to the door. And if you look on that, you're going to see that it's got different nodules on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look really carefully, because sometimes there'll be 3 on the door and 2 on the door jamb. But in our case, if I look on there, I know this second one and the fourth one, whatever, is going to the door. Okay, so those are the 2 I'm going to work on. Okay, so I've got to pull this door off of the door hinges to do this next step. But what I'm going to end up doing, I'm going to tell you real briefly. I'm going to take this nib, just this, and I'm going to bend it over towards the door. I'm going to take this one and bend it over to the door. And then when I put it back up, can you see that if this is bent over about a 1/16 or so, that I'll then be able to push this over further, and these other 3 on the door jamb is going to hold this door in place, and it's going to move it over that little bit. Okay, that's my next step. Now, I didn't want to do that first because I thought maybe I could move the jamb over a little bit, because sometimes that works a little bit and then you don't have to do this next step, or maybe you don't have any room at all. But because we do, that's going to be our next step. So it's time to remove this door. It's time to remove this door.